Every artist and band that has solidified themselves as one of the greats has their own specific sound that's unique to them, and it helped them accrue lifelong hardcore fans. But that sound didn't come about by an accident, it was actually tailor-made, built by design. And today I'm going to talk about how you can tailor your own signature sound that sets you apart from everyone else. I'm Brandon with Megatonic Audio. Let's get into it. All right, the first thing we're going to talk about to find your signature sound is, what do you got? What is at your disposal right now? I'm talking, what gear do you have and what instruments? You don't need to go out and buy specific gear and all the instruments that your favorite band has. You're probably going to end up sounding really close to them, a little too close for comfort. You're going to sound like a copycat, and you don't want that. You want your signature sound that is unique to you. There are a bunch of examples of bands that all they had at the time was all they could use. And it really lended to their signature sound that solidified them as one of the greats in history. And they couldn't go out and buy nice gear. They couldn't go out and get the guitar that everyone else was using or any sort of studio quality guitar or any instrument, let alone any expensive gear that goes along with recording. The best example of this is White Stripes. If you've heard the White Stripes, then you know that they only sound like the White Stripes. They have their influences, and we'll get to that in a minute. But overall, that sound, that's them, and it's theirs. The second you hear White Stripes, the second they crank up and start a tune, you know it's White Stripes without Jack White even having to sing a single note. Without Jack White having to sing a single note, you know exactly who's playing a song when they crank up. That's the effect of having a signature sound. And all he had at the time was an airline guitar from Montgomery Awards or Sears or something like that. It was not ideal for a studio situation, but look what sound it made. He made it work. He didn't have a bass. All the White Stripes are is Jack White on guitar and Meg White on drums. And what added to it was that actually Meg White wasn't even a drummer. He just kind of showed her, well, you hit this and that, and this is kind of, 4/4 time, and this is what we usually play like, and figure out a basic beat, Meg. And then they went with it. And because she wasn't a drummer that was listening to all kinds of music all the time, trying to learn covers of songs or get the technique right, she was just thrown into it. And that in itself sounds different, just drums alone, from any other band's drums. Put all that together and they got their own signature sound, and it came from using what they had. Not going out and getting a bunch of pristine gear and the best guitar, the best bass, the best drum set. They just used what they had and figured out what to play on their own. And another sub point to this, using what you have, one thing you got is, if you're a singing band, you're a traditional artist that you sing and you're not just an instrumental band, you got a vocal sound. Well, figure out what your vocal sound is. We've all heard voice actors in plenty of animated movies that jump from character to character and they sound completely different. One person's voice is able to make a lot of different sounds in a lot of different styles. So you need to figure out, what style do you sound best in? Do you sound kind of raspy and you sound really good just straight, no vibrato, not really a traditional vocalist with a huge range or skill, but you're just kind of singing like a ton of rock bands? Nirvana is one of them. That you're just kind of hitting the notes, but something about your vocal sound really fits with that style. Or maybe you're a classically trained vocalist and you've got a huge range. You've got a ton of control over your vocal, perfect pitch, singing a bunch of styles, and figure out where your vocal sits the best. Then throw that over your instruments. Now, the second thing you need to think about is the tones of everything. And influence is okay here because your influences are going to come out in what you play. It is inevitable. We're all influenced by some kind of music, and it's going to come out a little bit when you make your own music. And it comes out without you even trying to emulate somebody else's style. It's natural, and that's okay. What you don't want to do is copy every verbatim all the time. Now, what you can do with tone and influence is find part of somebody else's sound in a band and pair that with somebody else's other sound. And what I mean by that is, let's say there is a crazy bass tone that you just can't get away from that this one band uses. Well, you could try that in a song if you use another band's weird, different guitar tone or something and see what pairs together with it. A lot of people's big signature sounds that you hear on the radio or on your playlist, whatever you're listening to, when they sound so unique and so clever with all the tones they have, oftentimes it's one instrument is a tone that is influenced by one of their favorite artists, and then another instrument within the same song is inspired by the tone of a different favorite band, even from a different style, and they put it together. And you only really figure these things out with, one, in interviews when they talk about it, or two, when you really study every song of an artist to see where the through line is, or you study one specific song and you're just trying to get the tones of each thing just to see how they got them. That's when you can maybe draw some conclusions that actually, now that I'm listening really hard for what that guitar sounds like, it kind of sounds like this band or whatever. But as a whole, to the listener and to you, even a trained musician, the songs will still sound unique to the band playing them. It starts to sound like a copycat when you copy everything from a band in one song. Other than that, you need to experiment with the gear you have and the voice you have. Figure out tones on the instruments you have. If you figure out some cool, inspiring tones just using the gear you have, trying to tweak it, and this can take a long time, but you do it once and you've got a good tone. And then you take another day of figuring out tone on an instrument just to have a variety of different tones that are unique to you. And once you figure out a tone, just write down all your settings, write down how you got that sound, and move on. Figure out what that sound pairs with the best. Do that with every instrument you have. And when you restrict yourself from going out and buying that new bass that you want because so-and-so's band uses it and they sound so good, when you restrict yourself from doing that and do it the hard way and say, no, this is the bass I got. These are the pedals I got. This is the amp I got. Or these are the plugins I have. And when you use all that, all the stuff that only you have to get your tone, it's probably going to sound unique. But you got to take the time to experiment, all right? And number 3, the third thing you need to think about is, what's your overall energy? And by energy, I'm referring to the rhythm types that you typically gravitate towards and what tempos do you gravitate towards within those rhythms. If you listen closely, some bands you'll notice use the same tempo all the time for everything, and you wouldn't think it, but if you're listening to an album all the way through, or you got a playlist of your favorite artist and that's all they do, it can get pretty fatiguing and you'll change it to another artist. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but it still is a factor. But if you're gravitating towards certain rhythms all the time, let's say Queens of the Stone Age, they used to, a lot of their songs would do they'd be keeping time on the floor time, about that tempo too. Kind of a faster punk rhythm. It's really cool and it works for them in a lot of songs, but they know not to do that on every single song. Otherwise, the music just starts to get stale and boring because you feel like you've heard it a bunch of times, even if the chord progression and other tones are different. You can have rhythms like that you do a lot, just don't do it every time, and make sure you vary in tempo too. And those types of rhythms and tempos that you use play into the overall sound that you have, the way you come off to people as a whole. That's kind of where the energy is. That plays a big part in the impact of your song. So when you figure out your energy and your overall energy and your overall tones, the different ones that you'll use on the different instruments, and your vocal tone, and also sticking with the instruments and the gear that you already have to get those tones, you've pretty much got your own signature sound. Now, there's one other element that I could talk about. I'll just give you the bonus. Number 4 is, what are your songs about lyrically? Yeah, I know it's lyrics. It's, you know, you can read lyrics and not hear any music. The lyrics aren't part of the sound necessarily, sonically, but they do add to the feel of what you sound like. What you're saying coming out of your mouth, what people are hearing, and the way they're perceiving your meaning behind the song colors the sound. It's part of the sound. So, for instance, are you always the breakup song girl? Is that what you sing all the time? Do you sing about breakups from different perspectives, or don't do it from just one perspective all the time? That's boring. Or do you sing a lot of angsty songs in minor keys about, I don't know, what pisses you off about working for the man or whatever? If there are topics that you typically sing about, or like a realm of topics that you sing about, that adds to your overall signature sound. That adds to the way everybody perceives you and what makes you stick out to them as far as sounding like you and no one else. When you put all that together, you've got it. Use what you got, your instruments, your vocal. Figure out the tones that sound best on what you got. Figure out the energy, the rhythms and tempos of each song and what you gravitate towards. What's fun to play and what's most pleasing to hear, most exciting to hear, or most appropriate for the situation. And what types of stuff do you sing about? All four of those things make your signature sound. They're going to make you sound like you and no one else. Yes, like I said, we have influences, but you will still stick out to people as unique, a special sound that they can only get when they listen to your music. And that right there will gain you a wealth of fans, lifelong fans, hardcore fans. So put it all into practice and let's see the results. And if you need help with your songs, trying to find what your signature sound is, what would sound best for any particular song you have, and you're looking for the right producer to collaborate with, that's me, I'm your guy. Click the link below to get in contact with me and fill out a short questionnaire to see what you're working on, and we'll go from there. And if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. All of that helps me get to more people like you to talk about topics like this. That's what I'm trying to do on this new YouTube channel. And I really appreciate everybody watching. Thank you so much. And I'll catch y'all on the next one.